And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Kramer, joined by my co-host, the great Daniel Bobo Curlin. And Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm do I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Just excited for the World Baseball Classic beginning tomorrow. The USA playing their first game tomorrow. Hopefully we pull this off. A rare time. Actually want Aaron Judge to do something.
Yeah, it's true. We're going to be rooting for the captain of the New York Yankees, which is very odd for us Met fans in the World Baseball Classic. So it's going to be, definitely an interesting dynamic. Always
Yeah,
interesting when you have these international competitions, just like a couple of weeks ago had us Rangers fans rooting for one of the best players in the New Jersey Devils, Jack Hughes.
Yep, exactly. And the crazy part is that there is some unusual circumstances that happen already with past World Baseball Classics. For one thing, as I mentioned before, I mentioned it many times before. 2009, being at the WBC, being at that WBC, giving my uncle a hug, who's a Yankees fan after David Wright got that walk off RBI that sent them to the semifinals. Of course, can't forget that. And then, of course, there is a 2017 when I happen to know somebody who, I don't know, he had some access to the players and he got the entire 2017 championship U.S. World Baseball Classic team to autograph a ball, a WBC ball, or to autograph a ball. And I got this ball that has the signature that one of those signatures on that ball is a Giancarlo Stanton of all things.
Wow, very cool. That's a pretty cool little
Yeah,
piece of
yeah,
memorabilia to have.
yeah. It's one of the signatures, in addition to of course, the entire team. But just the fact that the World Baseball Classic led to me owning a piece of memorabilia that has the signature of a Yankee on it.
That's true. Very true, man. And hey, maybe they'll go deep this time again, and maybe somewhere down the line you'll get one that has an Aaron Judge signature on it. Um, I'm just taking a look at our chat. I see Cardiff was hanging out here before saying start early. Sorry, Cardiff, we didn't see this till a little late. Shout out to the great Cardiff Electric for
Yep,
his
yep.
time on our
That
show during the watch party that you guys had with Stevie Lou last week.
Yep, he was a guest. And once again, thank you to Cardiff for joining me and a guest co-host Stevie Lou for that classic episode that I feel is at this point I feel like that's gonna be like it's gonna be hard to find something else that wouldn't be number one on the best of 2026 because that moment just feels like the top of the list. Of course, there's gonna be a lot of other things that could happen, but that is a strong contender for number one on the best moments of the show in 2026. That moment right there.
Yeah, I can guarantee you at the end of the year when I'm cutting up stuff for our best of 2026, that'll definitely be in the package, no doubt about that. But then, a couple of things real quick I did want to get to at off the bat, off the top of the show. Some of them a little on topic, some of them a little off topic. First off, though, we were talking about obviously, the great show that you guys did with Stevie and Cardiff for the Olympic final against Canada, the gold medal game. Now, I heard something very interesting yesterday. I was watching a former guest on this show, Carl Hamburger, on the great Who Are These podcast yesterday, and he was playing clips of Opie. And Opie has kind of been out of the game for the last week or two. He said he suffered a back injury and hadn't really been
Oof.
podcasting, so nobody had really seen him for the last couple of weeks. And he comes back the other day and had mentioned offhand, he said that Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes were his cousin's sons. So I don't know if he was kidding when he said that, but how crazy would that be if Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes, the two great brothers that are on the Olympic gold medal team, were related to Greg Opie Hughes?
How wild is that? And then I gotta say, man, for all things we joked, I do wish he'll be good recovery from that back injury. I've because I have a cousin that went through some that had back surgery a few years back and managed to somehow recover from that, and he's now a pilot for for one of those private charter jet companies. Those private jet companies. He
Yeah,
works for that
very
now, and
cool.
he somehow made it to that. Even with the back condition, he's flying for a private jet company that's cost way more than what I could afford to fly with. Trust me, if he was allowed to offer free flights, we'd probably the both of us would be flying right there to every side of the WBC right now.
No doubt about it. We'd be following the Mets around during the season.
Yeah, exactly. But for putting that in the case, but he still does a wonderful job as a pilot. Got to give a lot of props to him. I love seeing his. I always enjoy seeing his posts on Facebook when he show. Always appreciate him showing. He's a big enthusiastic about flying, and I always love how he shares with everyone all these things about the plane that he gets to fly.
Very cool. Very
It's
cool,
pretty
man.
cool. But
And,
but but yeah, but yeah, I gotta say that is weird that all this time an Olympic hero like that is related to Opie. I had a feeling that might be the case. I didn't think it was possible. I wasn't quite fully sure it was, but I didn't discount the possibility with the fact that he's got the last name Hughes. I didn't discount the possibility.
yeah, I mean, I gotta tell you, the thought never crossed my mind. The name Hughes is a pretty common last name. So when Opie said that, that really blew my mind. And how funny is it that one of these kids that are related to Greg Opie Hughes is going to be the reason why Cardiff Electric is going to have to be driving you down Main Street in Toronto on Canada Day, blasting Freebird, right? It seems like it was the you know there's something that's bringing it all together here.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And by the way, I do want to state, hopefully some other people get the word out. I'm actually doing a best seat. If I go to that game, I'm doing a best seat in the house podcast giveaway because I realize that it's a day they're giving a giveaway, and I'm aware that there might be some Blue Jays fans that would want that giveaway. So anyone who knows any Blue Jays fans that would want that giveaway had that game that probably weren't able to make it to that game. This is if it happens from there. Let them know, and I'll give it, and I'll gladly give it to them. And of course, if they're in the area, I'll let them even meet me right in front of the stadium as I exit. I'll hand it to them. But either way, I'm gonna get. It's gonna be just a little. If that happens, it'll be a nice little surprise giveaway to a Blue Jays fan that will get. They'll get a nice little giveaway courtesy of Best Seat in the House podcast if they want that
Absolutely,
if they
man,
want
absolutely.
away from that game I'm attending, which will mean also another ice cream bowl added to the legendary collection of ice cream bowls from every MLB and minor league stadium I've been to.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, no doubt about it. Toronto's got a pretty cool stadium up there, so that'll be a very cool thing to add to your list. So definitely looking forward to that. Maybe we'll have to even produce some merch for you to bring up with you. But there's a couple of other things I did want to get to before we get into the usual stuff we get into. I did want to give a shout out to the great Lou Holtz, the former head coach of Notre Dame, the last head coach of Notre Dame to ever win a national championship way back in 1988. So Lou Holtz, goes out there and the guy was just about 90 years old, like 89. He ended up passing away at, and just one of my favorite coaches of all time. He's the first coach that I ever remember growing up seeing with Notre Dame. So shout out to Lou Holtz and Godspeed.
Yep, R.I.P. to one of the greats in a college football.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And also, okay, so we got that out of the way. I did want to get to you know, we did have some craziness here in New York City this past week, Dan, and it actually found its way all the way to the New York Post. And I'm not talking about any sports related things. What I'm talking about right now, Dan, and I really just want to get your opinion on it because it's pretty funny to talk about, is the Rumble at Rodney's. There was it was supposed to be a comedy show at Rodney's club in Manhattan, which is what used to be called Dangerfield. It's been a legendary club in Manhattan for years now, and you know they still do shows all the time. They had booked Stuttering John. Stuttering John had uh, you know a, a a friend of ours, a friend of the show, Gino Bisconti, on along with his wife, um, Keanu, and it you know, everybody else kind of did their time. Obviously, I think there were a couple of comedians that dropped off during because of the crazy crowd, and the crazy crowd was provided by none other than the other half of the Opie and Anthony show. We talked about Opie earlier. Well, now we're doing full circle here, Dan, as Anthony Cumia was the one that let everybody know that he was going to be going to Stuttering John's show last Friday night and basically sold the place out. And this crowd was crazy. This crowd was ready to go. They were on the edge of their seat. The energy was crazy over there. Anthony ends up getting into an altercation with some guy outside that wasn't a part of anything, but showed up to kind of provoke Anthony. Luckily, that ended up getting taken care of. Anthony didn't have any problems after that. Uh, no problems with the police, which was the best part about it. But Stuttering John ends up going up there and reading Anthony's police report, which didn't go over too well with the crowd. This is a police report from 2015 that, if you're a fan of Anthony, you know about this. You have heard about it for the last decade. So it wasn't really breaking any new ground. And he was summarily booed off stage, and just a whole bunch of insanity ensued. Dan, I know that you were taking a little peek at this. What are your thoughts on this insanity that unfolded last week?
Holy shit! This is like Jocktober live and in person. Like I've seen Jocktober. I mean, on social media, I've looked at sometimes during times if I was listening live, I looked at whatever Facebook page would be Jocktober. But holy shit, this was happening live and in person, and I couldn't believe how wild this was. I never expected that it would reach to this massive level. This is also like old school assault on the media kind of thing. Remember those days?
Yeah,
That
you're right.
that this is just like old school Opie and Anthony type thing that just brought it back.
Yeah, it's true. It was like the old day with the pests and everything coming out and just getting under people's skin, and especially Stuttering John's that night. And it was really a brutal scene. I mean, I was hooked. I was watching the whole thing. I know Shuley had coverage of it, which I was checking out, and Patrick Melton went live. I saw a little bit of that, so it was a lot of fun. That last Friday night. I wish I had thought to even go to the set. I really didn't think it was even going to be worth it. Otherwise, I would have tried to arrange for me and you to go down there and check it out. But to be honest, I really didn't think that anything big was going to be happening, and boy, was I wrong.
Yeah. I just thought it's just another thing Stuttering John performing. I didn't think that there was this whole plan for this thing to happen, and no one in the Anthony Cumia community even gave me an intel that you think someone would have given me in the Anthony community would have given me an intel that they're doing this. Like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna mess with the Stuttering John. Didn't happen. No one did this. No one gave me intel that this was gonna happen, and but I heard about it, and I gotta say it was just a real riot hearing about this happening when I heard about it.
It really was, and you're right. It really was like old school Opie and Anthony vibes to it. So I definitely just wanted to get your opinion because it was pretty ridiculous, and it is kind of look, it's kind of in the O&A universe. It's kind of bordering there. So we definitely had to see what Bobo thought of the Rumble at Rodney's. I'm sure. Uh, I'm sure that talking about that night isn't going to be going away anytime soon. So definitely had to cover that real quick, as that was pretty fun. So yeah, definitely, man. And if you want to see any more of the coverage of Rodney's, check out Shuley's show. They're going on tonight at 8 o'clock. Check out Cardiff. I think Cardiff is actually on either right now or possibly also going on at 8 o'clock. So definitely check out those shows. Those guys are hilarious, do a great job covering that. Also, last week we were giving shout outs to guys like Stevie Lou and Cardiff and everything. I also forgot to mention B Dabbler. B Dabbler tweeted out our show, which let a lot of people know that we were on that morning with Stevie Lou and Cardiff, and was also hanging out in the chat with us. So thank you very much, and shout out to B Dabbler too for that.
Yeah, shout out to everyone who supported the show and everything, and a and a big thanks for all the support, and everyone who took part and showed up in the chat room for that watch along. And I can tell you, I'm announcing it right here. If the U.S. gets to the finals of the World Baseball Classic, there's gonna be a watch along, which, because of the day that the finals of the WBC will happen, if this happens, it could be potentially a drunken show with the both of us, and a drunken championship celebration show could ensue on a Best Seat in the House podcast, which would be something else.
That's right, man. It's going to be on St. Patrick's Day, which could be the final. So we'll definitely be getting some kind, especially if the U.S. gets there. We'll be getting some kind of watch party together for that. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Keep your eye on social media and everything like that. Yeah, Dan. So let's start getting into it right now. Although before we do, I do want to give a shout out to some of the people hanging out in the chat. Tim Bollinger hanging out. How you doing tonight, Tim? Thanks for hanging out with us in the chat. Saying hi to
No,
Bobo.
yep. Thank you, Tim Bollinger, for watching.
Absolutely. Shout out, Tim. Thank you so much. Also, we have Maria Ruiz hanging out there saying, I love it how Judge is on a mission and very focused. And I agree. He does kind of seem like he's in the zone right now. He's been hitting bombs left and right every time these exhibitions and everything, even before he ended up leaving Yankees camp, coming over to Team USA. So it definitely seems like Aaron Judge is kind of locked in right now. And hey, let's hope that we get a lot of, you know, March, April, May, June, July, August Aaron Judge, and not too much of October Aaron Judge.
Yeah, exactly. And I just have a feeling that this team is going to be gonna have that team mentality that their fellow U.S. national team brethren in hockey had. They're gonna have that same mentality. And I have a feeling that, I didn't hear if this is confirming, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did send, like, have Freebird play every time they hit a home run. They should do that as a nod to.
That would be awesome. You're right. I would love that.
Yeah, I would love
Yes.
that. Yeah, exactly. They should do that.
I agree. Let's hope they have something fun in mind like that at least. Give a little shout out, like you said, a nod to the hockey gold medalists that preceded this tournament. So yeah, man, definitely. We'll be getting into a lot of the World Baseball Classic. You know what? Actually, let's just start there. I was going to start with the Knicks, but screw it. We're talking World Baseball Classic already, Dan. Let's get into it. World Baseball Classic is officially underway now, too. They started up last night. The first game was actually at 10 p.m. our time last night, and it was Australia taking on Chinese Taipei, however you say that. They ended up beating them 3-0 in the opening game. And you know, Dan, what do you think of Australia? They have a pretty decent team. I know they kind of get a bad draw because they're in Japan's pool there, pool A, and that's going to be tough to get out of, at least as the top seed. But Australia's got a pretty good team, and it wouldn't surprise me if they end up advancing to the next round.
Yeah, I have a feeling they could get to the next round. I feel like there's kind of an uptick in the baseball wells in Australia, because we've seen some talent kind of make it to the major leagues, but I feel like there's probably going to be some star players coming out of Australia down the line. I feel like they seem to be finally getting that slowly becoming a hotbed for baseball talent, like some other
Yeah,
places in the world have becoming.
it's true, man. And they're becoming a hotbed is a very good term there. You nailed that one, because it's really starting to gain popularity there. Actually, the one of their young kids, I forget his name. It's a weird one, like Bazana or something like that. But he's their leadoff batter for the way they're structuring their lineup right now, and he hit a big home run last night. He's actually the number 20 prospect in baseball right now. So Australia's got, not only a top 50 but a top 30 Major League Baseball prospect out here right now playing for them. And then the funny thing is they got former major leaguer Dave Nilsson. If you remember, he used to be a catcher with the Milwaukee Brewers in the late 90s and the early 2000s. He was one of the first big leaguers to come over from Australia, and he's their manager for Team Australia here. So it's pretty cool to see, a guy that played in the major leagues, going out there and getting it done. One of the obviously, I think from back then, one of the only other real Australians that I remember from that time period would probably be, if you remember, the big Baltimore Orioles pitcher Sidney Ponson. But outside of that, there really isn't too many, Australians, especially when you're going 20, 30 years back.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of starting to get. I think baseball's starting to catch on over there for a little bit. I know a couple of years ago the MLB had an season opening game there with they played the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks played a 2-game series there that had a pretty big crowd. So it seems like they're slowly gaining a market there for baseball.
Yeah,
That's
no doubt
probably
about
going
it.
to only grow as time goes along.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. It's only going to gain popularity there, no doubt about it. So Australia's off to a good start. They're also playing at 10 o'clock again tonight, so we'll keep our eye on that. Also, the other game from yesterday, or actually no, I think it was early today. Technically, I think it was I think it started around 5 a.m. or so. Korea ends up beating Czechia 11-4. And Korea's got a good team. The Czechs, I don't think they're that into baseball yet, so they're still getting their baseball program together. But we all have heard the Korean League, for years now. How many players have come back after failing initially or whatever, and have gone over to the Korean League and come back and had success. So I don't think it should be surprising anybody that Korea has a pretty damn good baseball team.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like there's going to be eventually a wave of Koreans in baseball, especially I feel that there's some Koreans that were made aware that there was a lot of people watching in the United States during the COVID pandemic. Remember, ESPN was airing a KBO a lot. And by the way, I want to share with you. I don't know if you ever noticed this, but there was a little funny thing when because I was recording this because it was that time when I was at work because I was an essential worker during that time at UPS. But so when I get back, I noticed something funny in the background in these cardboard cutouts. They were doing a cardboard cutout thing similar to in the States before MLB when MLB eventually started. There was a cardboard cutout. These 3 cardboard cutouts. One of Mike Nelson sitting in the middle between a cardboard cutouts of Tom Servo and Crow. I did not know Mystery Science Theater 3000 was a thing in Korea. I didn't know. So that there must have been someone who was putting together these cutouts. Someone in charge of a KBO team must have somehow been a Mystery Science Theater 3000 band because there was these cutouts of Mike Nelson and Tom Servo and Crow almost sitting right behind home plate. They were right behind home plate. And I'm just imagining it looking like they're rifting the game.
That's true. That's true. That's hilarious. Actually, I did watch some of the Korean baseball back then because we had no baseball of our own during the COVID. And yeah, you're right, man. That's pretty funny. I wish I had seen that.
Yeah. I gotta somehow look to see if I can find a screen cap of that. Also, I gotta say, any minor league teams out there because I know they love to do some of these silly promotions that are really, really entertaining promotions. They do. I'm shocked there hasn't been a minor league team that's done a Mystery Science Theater 3000 night. A team
You're
needs to
right.
do that. I would love to see. I would love to see like a team like the Brooklyn Cyclones do an MST3K night. That'd be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. That would be
Yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Like they could do like a Tom Servo and Crow bobblehead or something.
That's true. You absolutely could do that. Or even a T-shirt, whatever you wanted to do, it would definitely be worth checking that out if they had anything like that, especially if you're a Mystery Science 3000 fan. All right, Dan. So also with the Korean baseball, so they started that up. Japan is going to be starting up tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. kicking off games, and then the U.S. is going to be playing tomorrow night against Brazil at 8 p.m. I believe that's going to be the first time we're ever playing Brazil in this tournament, so that's going to be an interesting matchup. And the United States should be ready to go, man. I mean, the first couple of games, they get Brazil and Great Britain, and look, England, Great Britain, whatever you want to call them, they've been coming along the last couple of years in respect to their baseball program, but the United States should absolutely destroy both of these teams.
Yeah, exactly. I have a feeling the United States are going to get through this grouping round pretty quick. Pretty quick. They'll be. It's pretty. I feel like it's almost. I mean, we still got to play the games for it to happen, but I feel like they're a shoe in to get to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I mean, at least I agree with you. And the thing about this too is that you have to remember run differential and everything plays a role in this. So if you have a chance to squash these teams, squash them quick. You can't let these teams hang out. You can't sit here and try to win a 2-1 game. Sure, I mean it'll be nice if you do win, even if it is 2-1. But it's especially bad teams like these, or just not necessarily bad teams, just teams that are not up to the par of the United States caliber. And the United States is just, you can count, on one hand, how many teams have a deep roster like the United States in this tournament. It's really the United States, Japan, the Dominican Republic, maybe Puerto Rico, even though Puerto Rico doesn't even have a few of their top stars. So it's going to be, there's only a handful of teams that have these deep major league talent, laden rosters.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be. I feel like that's pretty much how it's gonna where it's gonna end up. The teams that are going to be major contenders for the championship, and I'm looking forward to watching every bit of it. And I don't know about you, but I noticed the ticket prices for the final are higher than I've ever seen prices for the WBC final. When I looked at on TickPick,
Really, what's the numbers you're seeing?
I'm seeing like 300s, like lowest. Like I'm gonna go on the resale site I go to right now. Hold this one. This you could look
Yeah,
at any
no,
resale site.
yeah,
Hold
definitely
on.
check it out. That is the game that we were talking about earlier. That's going to be taking place, the World Baseball Classic final on St. Patrick's Day,
I'm
which is
seeing
going to be
I'm seeing the
yeah.
cheapest ticket at 358.
Wow. So just to get in the building, 350.
Yeah, that is a far cry. I was seeing it a lot. I was at home, but I was looking at it for like that, and I was surprised how low the funds was. But I feel like I guess the viewers, I guess based maybe potentially also because the U.S. got to the finals, the U.S. viewer numbers just got higher. Maybe there's some resellers hoping they can make the money off of the fact that that Shohei Otani effect, because they're thinking Japan might be in the final, so they want to make as much money as they possibly can from Japanese tourists. They could be that, because that Shohei Otani effect seems to affect the real sale market. Remember, I compared it to similar to how I remember back in the day how scalpers were scalping like crazy when Jordan was on the Bulls during that era. It had that effect whenever Jordan was in town. It that So I kind of wonder if that's had an effect, and maybe the amount of viewers have become watching the tournament. The tournament's kind of grown, gained more viewers. Stateside also may have played into the factor of of the prices, because I remember a time where that game I attended in 2009, the the relative that went with me to that game, the tickets were bought because he went to a Yankee spring training game, and there was a promo that buy one get one free if you attended a spring training game in Florida that year for that game. So that's a far cry from that
Yeah,
in terms of
yeah,
how
no
the
doubt.
tournament's grown.
And you know what? Definitely could be pushing the number up if there's any Met fans that live in that area, Dan, because you know who's slated right now to pitch that final. The Mark DeRosa, who's the manager of Team USA, and their whole brain trust over there have come up with the way that the roster management and the pitching rotation is going to work out for this. And so we're going to have Paul Skeens start tomorrow, and it's going to be Tariq Skubal on Saturday. Now, they're only going to have Skubal for one start, and it's going to be that start on Saturday against Great Britain. And then after that, he's going right back to the Tigers, apparently. Uh, the guy that they have lined up to pitch, he's going to pitch game 4 in this tournament. Um, and I believe, let me see, that's going to be against, it's going to be Mexico on Monday. And so our boy, Dan, Nolan McLean, who's going to be starting game 4 against Italy in this tournament, if they get far enough to where they're playing a week later on St. Patty's Day in the championship game, it'll be New York Mets rookie Nolan McLean starting that game with the weight of the entire country on his shoulders.
Yeah, that is just wild. How he just made a couple of starts as a rookie, and he's going to be pitching in quite a big game in front of a rare time you're going to see Lone Depot Park sold out like that. I think
With
the
them
other
all,
thing that yeah, exactly. If you've been to that stadium, I've never been to that one before, but I've seen the Mets on the road at the old stadium in Miami. In Miami, the old stadium when they used to share it back when they used to share the stadium with the Dolphins, which has gone through, so it's now known as Hard Rock. But back when they were playing there, and I remember then it was similar to how Lone Depot Park is today, the kind of crowds they drew there. And of course, that time there was a bit larger crowd because the Mets were in town. But the other reason I think also it's the prices are going to be high is because it's in Florida, and there's going to be a lot of people who are already going to be in Florida for spring training. So I feel like there's going to be people that are going there for spring training and realize, oh, the U.S. is in the WBC finals. I should go get a ticket. I should go get a ticket and go since it's happening while I'm here. And let's say they're, especially if they're attending spring training and they're visiting one of the teams that are in the South Florida, not far from Miami, and they said, oh, it's not far. I'm booking a ticket and going. So that's a big possibility that could happen.
that's true. And I've been trying to figure out if I'm going to be heading down to spring training around that time, which was a possibility. But I'll tell you this much: even if I am down there, I won't be spending $350 to go to the WBC championship game. So I'll be watching it on TV from somewhere, and we'll be figuring it out.
Yep, exactly. Hopefully you'll find a good place to watch, a good place to watch it at least. But
But either way, even if I am down there, we will be doing a watch along for the championship game. So be sure to be on the lookout for that because we're definitely going to be um, doing that again if the USA gets that far. And all right, Dan. So that's all the World Baseball Classic stuff we got. I did want to get into a couple other little things from the baseball before we move on totally from that. And let's start off with the Mets. Mets lost today to the Nationals 7-4. No big deal. You know, let's be honest. There's a lot of minor leaguers in there right now. A lot of part timers. One guy though that looks like he hasn't. That it could still be October, and he could still be right in the middle of a playoff run, and that's Bo Bichette, Dan. Bo Bichette is looking in mid-season form so far. I'm really, really liking seeing this guy in a Met uniform. He looks like a pro out there. He makes contact. He's not a big strikeout guy, and it's very fun to see his bat to ball skills.
Yeah, exactly. I hope this guy pulls. Just really have a feeling he's going to pull off a monster year, and hopefully he'll stick around after the monster year because again he's doing one of those that just signed one of those opt out deals, which get me nervous about that.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right about that. But it's going to be on the Mets to make sure that he's still here next year, and it'll be interesting to see how David Stearns handles that because you're right, he's most likely going to opt out. Although it's weird too because he's still making 42 million, which no matter where, even if he gets a long term deal from somewhere, he's not making that type of money. So it is interesting to me. I wonder if he does because it's a 3-year deal, right? So I wonder if maybe he milks that deal for the first 2 years and then opts out after the second year instead of the first year. But either way, the Mets are going to have to do everything they can to keep this guy long term because this is the type of guy you want to build around. He's 27, 28 years old. He's in the prime of his career. He's a 300 hitter. He's got a great postseason resume already. So this is the type of guy you want on your team.
Yeah, exactly. And it'd be nice for David Stern to keep a guy that's actually in his prime for once. Because I just feel
Yeah,
like you keep getting these I feel like David Stearns lately has been a lot of these retreads that come off their worst year and kind of are very hit or miss the results. And be nice for once to see David Stearns bring in a sure thing.
yeah, it's true. Or at least keep him around. So you're definitely right about that. We'll see how everything breaks out with Bo Bichette. Um, I did want to talk about the Mets pitching rotation for a sec, as they announced Carlos Mendoza, that is, announced yesterday that they're going to be starting Sean Manaea, who still, let's be honest, have been playing games since February 21st, and we haven't seen either of these guys yet. But Sean Manaea will make his spring debut tomorrow, and Kodai Senga will make his spring debut on Saturday. So it'll nice to finally see these two guys getting ramped up to get ready for the regular season.
Yeah, exactly. I just Singa is probably a question mark. Manaya, I feel like he kind of went off an entire year where he looked like he rushed back from an injury. It looked like last year.
Yeah, it was a lost season. That was, the guy didn't come back until the All-Star break, and just it seemed like he could never get it right.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like he'll be more. He won't be so out of whack this year, this spring training. And I feel like he'll be more prepared and ready to go and not be under a lot of pressure to rush back.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think you're right about that. So it's all gonna be about keeping. That's why spring training these days now has just been about keeping your main guys healthy, especially your pitchers. So Sean Manaea right now, uh, you know, all good so far. Same thing with Kodai Senga. Let's hope they stay that way by the time March 26th rolls around for opening day. Also, Carlos Mendoza was talking to the Post the other day and let their intentions be known of how he expects to run this pitching rotation for the season, Dan. And, it made me very happy to hear him say that the way the Mets are going to do it is that no matter what, Freddie Peralta is starting every fifth day. And that's exactly what they should do. Freddie Peralta should start every fifth day. And then he said basically what they're going to do is fill in around him. So Nolan McLean is probably going to be the number 2 guy. Then they'll have David Peterson fill in. Clay Holmes if he needs a day, because he said it's going to be 6 guys in this rotation. So that obviously is Freddie Peralta, Nolan McLean, Clay Holmes, David Peterson, Kodai Senga, and Sean Manaea. So he said they're going to be going with that for at least the start of the season. That's the plan, and as long as everybody's healthy. And Freddie Peralta is going to pitch every fifth day. But, the way that he was explaining it was Clay Holmes, might need an extra day every once in a while. So you bump who's ever behind him in the rotation to help him out a day. Maybe Clay Holmes is feeling really good and David Peterson needs an extra day. So you know what? You bump Clay Holmes up a day. So I kind of like the fact that the only guy we know for sure is Freddie Peralta every fifth day, and then they're just going to go with whoever feels the best. I think that's a really fluid, good way to run this rotation for this year.
Yeah, I just feel like that's how it's going to be to start the year, and we'll see how that turns out going into the start of the season. And I know there's going to be probably a lot that's going to happen depending how it's going to play out. Probably going to be some young pitchers that are going to be in play. I feel like as the year goes along,
Oh yeah,
probably
you're
going
going
to
to
be
have
on
the
the
Jonah
lookout.
Heim.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And there's Christian Scott. I feel like he's
yep.
got to be making a comeback at some point. I feel like he's earned it. I feel like he's going to at least get a shot to make a comeback in a big club because if after he just had that brief little sampling we had, I feel like he's bound to if things are pan out like he was before. I feel like he's bound to be one of the great pitchers and could be one of the great pitchers the Mets have had, and could be something that's gonna be like a big thing like during the days like the Grom. So I feel like that's that's gonna happen down the line, and there's a lot in the prospect department to be excited about. That's going to lead to me maybe taking a look at some of the games in AAA on the, how MLB.TV you get access to the minor league games. Might have to take a look at some AAA games because there's going to be some really key prospects. Carson Bench, who's going to be called up soon, pretty soon at some point. Eventually, that's going to happen. Also, I think there's going to be some even prospects even on lower levels. Like there might be some prospects that are going to probably going to be worth taking a look at it over in a double A. That I'm probably going to make the trip out to when double A is on the road in the Somerset. There's a double A team in Somerset, so when Binghamton's on the road there, I might make the trip out there because it's right next to the New Jersey Transit station. So I might make the short train right out there to see to check out some of the prospects in double A when it's in an area that's easy to get to on the road in an area easy to get to.
That's right, man. That's right. So definitely, the Mets have still, even with everybody they've moved, everybody they've lost, the trades, everything, they still have a pretty deep farm system. So definitely have to keep an eye on those guys, both in the high and lower levels. And last thing on the Mets before we check in on the Yankees for a sec, Dan, it's that outfielder Mike Tauchman, who the Mets signed just a couple of weeks ago to a invite to spring training on a minor league deal. He's making a strong case to be on the opening day roster, Dan. And I'd love to see him make the team. I think, having a vet like Talkman on this team really helps out. And it doesn't mean that you have to have Talkman on the team at the expense of a guy like Carson Bench. You could still have Bench on this team. You just need Talkman over there, to give. This is a guy that you can count on to give you veteran at bats off the bench. Not only is he going to provide you with a big hit every once in a while, as we've seen early on in spring, he's swung a pretty hot bat so far. Although you have to take into consideration who he's done it against. Lower level spring training competition, but still getting the job done. And this is a guy that you can count on to come uh, in a tough spot late in the game and have a good at bat. And that's what you need. You can't have, last year at the end of the season, man, how many times did the Mets pinch hit for a guy like Ronnie Mauricio, who, no offense to Mauricio, I think he's going to be a good player, but he would be coming off the bench and he's trying to prove himself and he's tense and he's tight, he's gripping the bat too hard. You could tell he's trying too hard to do too much because he's trying to impress, and you can't blame the kid for that. But he would be coming off the bench and just flailing at anything, and that they could throw a pitch in the opposite batter's box and he's still swinging at it. This is a guy Talkman that's not going to be having anything like that, and I think that level of professionalism can really rub off on the Mets clubhouse.
Yeah, and I feel like also he's going to be a valuable asset off the bench down the line. So it's going to be. I feel like it's going to be a key player down the line. That's going to be like flying under the radar, but going to have some big moments for the Mets this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And the other note on the Mets too is that Jorge Polanco did make his official Grapefruit League debut at first base today. So they already started that process of getting him, as many reps as possible there. So we'll have to keep our eye on Jorge Polanco, who's still adjusting to his new position. Last thing on the baseball before we close it up, Dan, is that the Twins. Me and you always talk about and kind of laugh at how the Yankees have absolutely dominated the Twins over the last 20 years. I don't have the number in front of me. I usually get it during the regular season, but the Yankees have just dominated the Twins at an astonishing rate over the last 20 years, and it really just caught my eye that the Twins beat them 15-0 today, and that was only in a 6 inning game because in the beginning of the 7th inning, the game got called for rain. So even though the Twins might not have all their regulars there and the Yankees don't have all their regulars there, I feel like this was kind of a cathartic experience for the Twins to beat the Yankees up a little bit for once.
Yeah, exactly. It just felt like they must have felt like, even though it was a spring training game, they must know the history of constant losing to the Yankees in the playoffs. That they may have had one of those they beat the shit out of Scott Vargas in a Christmas Story moment. Like, he's already down. He's already down already. You know that.
Yeah, it really was like that kind of moment. And, but it doesn't count. Obviously, it's a spring training game. But, if you're a Twin fan, you probably felt a little bit good about that game. And so definitely something, look, and there's no Aaron Judge on this team right now. They're playing a lot of minor leaguers today, so take that for what it's worth. But definitely getting some aggression out for the Minnesota Twins there. And also Aaron Boone announced before the game today that they have Cam Schlittler, that's right, the rookie from last year, who was a sensation in the second half of the season for them, and especially in the playoffs when he threw that great 8 inning masterpiece against the Red Sox to knock them out of the playoffs before the Yankees advanced to the ALDS to play the Blue Jays. But Cam Schlittler, who the Yankees shut down for a couple of weeks earlier this spring, is now back and making his spring debut tomorrow against the Rays. So if you're a Yankee fan, Dan, that's definitely music to your ears at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Yankee fans that are going to make this a point. They're going to make this appointment viewing tomorrow because he had a stellar rookie season, and there's going to be a lot of eyes on this, and the pressure is only going to even increase for Schlittler during this year.
Oh yeah, because in a lot of ways he's the Yankees version of Nolan McLean. Even though he did have definitely a lot more starts than McLean did last year. McLean only started 8 games and came up in late August, but still, Cam Schlittler was their version of that, and it's the same thing. I feel like a lot of Met fans are putting big time predictions on Nolan McLean this year, and Yankee fans are doing the same thing for Cam Schlittler. He's that type of guy that the Yankee fans are looking at right now as a big wild card in that rotation. Because let's not forget, they have one hell of a rotation, especially once Garrett Cole is totally done recuperating from this surgery, which might take a couple of weeks into the regular season. Maybe the first week of May they get Garrett Cole back. Maybe it's earlier than that, but right now you have to be realistic. But you look at that rotation, Dan, especially the top of it, where you've got Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, and Cam Schlittler, and then the Yankees can choose from the rest of the guys they have, whether it be Luis Heel or any of these other guys they have at the back end there. But those top 4 guys in the rotation, you could argue maybe outside of the Dodgers because they're just absolutely ridiculous at this point. But the Yankees, at least you could say, probably have the best rotation in the American League.
Yeah, exactly. They have a pretty good rotation in what's going to be. I mean, for Yankee fans, they're gonna have to sweat it out more than what Yankee fans are usually used to this year, because there's a lot of competition in the AL East this year.
Definitely.
It's gonna be very competitive. It's probably gonna go to that division is probably gonna be not settled until the last week of the season.
Yeah, yeah, it's true, man. The Blue Jays are they did lose a little bit. They lost Chris Bassett. They lost, obviously to us, they lost Bo Bichette. So they did lose a couple of pieces, but let's not forget they also made a couple of big moves, signing whatever the pitcher's name was, I forget, to the $200 million deal. They also made a couple other big moves. So the Blue Jays are still primed and ready to go. They have a great team, no doubt about it. So they're going to take the Yankees to the limit, and the Red Sox are going to be in that mix too. Let's not forget the Baltimore Orioles also added our boy Pete Alonso, and made a couple of other moves that might help change their luck for this season. And even the Rays, it's always seems like the Tampa Bay Rays, when you count them out, uh, they're a little bit more dangerous than you expect them to be. So the American League East is definitely going to be tough to get out of, and the Yankees keeping their rotation healthy with guys like Cam Schlittler is going to be a big part of if they come out on top.
Yeah, exactly. And it's gonna be there's gonna there's gonna be some unusual Yankee fans sweating bullets, which I feel like do Yankee fans even sweat bullets? Because I feel like some of these Yankee fans have seen a lot of championships over the course of their time. Not counting certain Yankee fans that may have been born, very too late to really know the dynasty, but there's quite a lot of Yankee fans that know that dynasty, especially some that are my age. They know they they got spoiled with the winning. The ones
It's
my
true.
age.
That's true. And it's been, what, 16, 17 years now since the Yankees last won, way back in 2009. So the Yankees are looking for another one. No doubt about that, Dan. And speaking for looking for another championship, the Yankees have been 2009. The team we're about to bring up right now, it's been a little bit longer than that. 2009, 1973. The New York Knicks haven't won a championship since 1973. So we're hoping to put that one to bed this year in June before the Yankees even get a chance to in October. And the Knicks did take on the team that won the championship last year, the defending NBA champion Oklahoma City Thunder, who just have such a deep, incredible team. And the Knicks took them to the limit last night, 103-100 at the Garden, came up just a little bit short. Had two chances right at the end there to put up two threes to tie it, take it to OT. We're not able to get that done. But hey, the Knicks are still a very good team. They just smashed the San Antonio Spurs earlier this week in a big win, and the Spurs are a hell of a team. The Knicks could just as easily, if the Knicks are lucky enough to get and talented enough to get out of the East this year and represent the East in the NBA Finals, you can pick it out of a lineup there. Or you can pick it out of a bag. The it there really isn't that much of a difference between the Thunder and the Spurs. They're both really incredibly talented, deep teams with a lot of young talent, and the Knicks really, it's a measuring stick to go against these kind of teams. And even though the Knicks did lose this game, they did beat the Spurs. The Knicks at least look good. 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The Knicks had a legit chance to win this game.
Yeah, exactly. And they did. And I say the Knicks pretty played them pretty well, and I feel like they're going to be in good shape going into the playoffs if they keep this up. Maybe this game they should have made a couple more better defensive plays that could have kept them in gave them a better shot at winning this. But I feel like as long as they could show up their defense, I feel like they could be right there in the thick of it and potentially leading to the both of us celebrating.
No doubt about it, man. We would definitely be celebrating if the Knicks take it home on this one. And it was such a weird game last night too, because the Knicks went out there in the first half. The Knicks only scored 40 points. They were down 50-40 at halftime, and you're saying to yourself, geez, we've seen the Knicks score 40 points in a quarter. They only did that in a half. How good is this Thunder defense? And then the third quarter started, Dan, and the Knicks looked like that offensive New York Knicks team that we're used to. They scored 40 points in the first two quarters combined. They went out there and scored 40 points in the third quarter alone. So it's crazy because then the Thunder showed their championship pedigree, went out there and only allowed 20 points in the third quarter, which is what allowed them to pull away and get the win. But, the Thunder have such a good structurally defensive team. And for the Knicks to go out there, look, okay, you struggled in 1, 2, and 4 against them. But to put up 40 points in the third quarter against this team, that shows that. And look, I've been critical of Mike Brown at times this year, but that to me shows the ability to go in at halftime, rally his troops, get these guys pumped up again, and come up with a game plan that exploited the weaknesses of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, that shows a lot. And I feel like this game is going to be a momentum booster, similar to how I remember like in football with the 2007 New York Giants, the way even though they lost that game against the Patriots at the end of the season, just the way they held their own and they were in it the entire game, and they easily played that they played them so well that they could have easily beat them. It seemed to carry a lot of momentum to the Giants carried that momentum into the playoffs, and they ended up beating that same team that they played earlier in the year. They played that same team in the Super Bowl and put it all together and win the whole and managed to win and pull off the upset. That's the kind of momentum I feel like this game is going to bring to the Knicks.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. We're definitely getting to that point in the NBA season right now where it's crunch time, and hey, you have competitive games like this, that mojo definitely carries over. So definitely agree with you on that. Tough loss last night, but Nick showed some good things. Shout out to our boy PhD hanging out in the chat there. Just giving a shout out to Bobo and Cramer.
Yep. Hi, PhD 24258 6, wherever you are. Thanks for watching our show and supporting our show.
Absolutely. We appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for hanging out with us. One thing that me and you've talked about too on this team is obviously Jalen Brunson is the big key to this team. And, part of the reason why the Knicks lost that game last night is because Brunson did get shut down for a lot of this game. He kind of got hot late. He hit 2 consecutive big threes that really helped the Knicks, get back in this game. And I think the second one he hit gave him the lead. But 16 points is not enough when you're going against that team. It's great to see the 15 assists, though. Brunson, it just goes to show how good he is, that even when he's not shooting well, he's still doing other things to help his team win. But, hey, as much as I love Brunson, you got to say, Jalen, you're part of the reason why the Knicks lost last night. We need you to be scoring 20-plus points. And say what you want. Oh, he scored 16. It's pretty close to 20. Well, they lost by 3. So if he actually scored 20, they win by 1.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he needs to maybe have a couple more better games and less of these times where you have a not so good game. And I feel like as long as he has a good game each time out, the Knicks I feel like they're gonna be pretty in good hands the rest of the way.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't want to sit here and knock Brunson and try to shit on him or anything. But what I'm saying is that the Knicks can't have their best players coming up small in these big games and be expected to win. The NBA is a stars league, and you need your stars to play like them. And Brunson, was able to be decent last night, but the Knicks need better than that if they're going to go deep again in the playoffs this year. And they're also going to need more out of Karl Anthony Towns. Now, I don't want to knock him either because the night he had last night was pretty ridiculous. Offensively, it was kind of strange. It seems like the offense is not running through Towns at times like it used to last year or even at times earlier this season. But 17 points, which is low for him, but 17 rebounds was huge. Towns was getting a lot. But the thing with Towns too is that sometimes he gets into the foul trouble. He fouled out last night, and then you don't have him for the last couple of minutes of the game when you really need him.
Yeah, exactly. I think Carl Anthony Towns needs to kind of lessen those fouls, and will be in another one that will be in better shape with if he can lessen some of those fouls and not make
Yeah,
these stupid mistakes like that.
yeah, and I'll say this too: Carl Anthony Towns gets baited by guys into a lot of BS fouls that are on him. But I will give him the benefit of the doubt that I have said this before, and I'll say it again. I think Carl Anthony Towns is the most unfairly refereed player in the league. I've seen so many calls against Towns that would never happen against other guys, where he's driving to the net and it's clear defensive fouls against him, and nothing gets called. And I've seen that bias against Towns. And the thing that hurts him though is that he complains to the referees a lot and doesn't really help his case. So and then he goes out there and has the really dumb fouls at times where you can't even excuse them. So the Knicks, let's be honest, Dan. If the Knicks are going to win the NBA championship this year, they're going to need, once the playoffs start, the best out of Jalen Brunson and the best out of Carl Anthony Towns. If they're not getting both, unfortunately, they probably don't have enough to win.
Yeah, and they got to get the best out of both. And I gotta tell you, that game did have me yelling at the refs uh, a number of times. I feel like I feel like the Knicks watching the Knicks are very conducive to me dropping a bunch of f bombs while watching TV.
Yeah, no doubt about it, especially in tight games like we saw last night. Speaking of tight, we saw not Jalen, but Josh Hart have a tight back last night. You could tell exactly when it flared up on him, too. You saw him as he was running down the court to get back on defense, grab his lower back. He missed a bunch of time after that, ended up only playing 24 minutes. However, it just goes to show how good Josh Hart is, too. Still ended up with a double-double with 10 points and 12 rebounds. So you got to give him credit for that. But, Josh Hart did get banged up in that game, which you don't like to see. And now he's listed as questionable versus Denver. So let's keep our fingers crossed that he's ready to go tomorrow against the Nuggets.
Yeah, exactly. We got hopefully this is just a blip on the radar, and it's not barking on him the rest of the year.
That's right, man. And tomorrow they're going to be playing in Denver at 9 p.m. As you can see, Denver still one of the better teams in the league. Knicks 40-23, Denver 38-24. So these are two teams right in the same stratosphere as each other, both near the top of the NBA. Not quite the Pistons for this year or the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder, but they're right in that tier underneath them to be a threat in the postseason. So that'll be it for the Knicks. They're on tomorrow night. And finally, Dan, one last thing before we get out of here. Uh, my question to you is, who will the Rangers trade before Friday's NHL trade deadline? I've heard a lot of names that I really can't believe. Me and you talked about this on our Patreon show the other day, which, by the way, if you want to check it out, patreon.com/best seat in the house podcast. It's only $5. But we were talking about this on our show the other day, Dan, where the Rangers right now apparently are shopping center Vincent Trocheck, who still signed for a couple of more years. He's only 33 years old. I'm sorry, he's only 32 years old. He'll be turning 33 over the summer, to be fair, but he's still only 32. He's still signed for a couple of years, and he's locked up at a very reasonable 5.2 or so million dollars a year. So very reasonable for a guy that can play first or second line center, scores 20 points, puts up 60 to 70 points a year, and wins more than half his faceoffs. So I don't understand that if the Rangers are going to trade that guy, it's going to make it, we heard GM Chris Drury come out over the last few weeks and months, Dan, and say that what he's looking to do is a retool. And I don't understand how you consider this a retool when you trade Artemi Panarin for nothing, which, okay, as much as I don't like that, he was going to be a free agent in the offseason that it looked like Drury didn't have interest in bringing back anyway. So, as much as I don't like it, he wasn't going to be here next year anyway, no matter what we did. Um, but Vincent Trocheck's still under contract. Why are we sitting here acting like you have to trade him when you could just keep him for next year to try to, I don't know, Dan, I know this sounds kind of crazy, but maybe win? What do you think?
Yeah, well, you got to keep him. You should keep him because I feel like he'll put us in a good position to win next year, especially if we make the right moves during the off season. Like I feel like there's going to be a lot of moves in the trade department, more than the free agent next year. But I feel like there's going to be something along there, probably something available in the trade market at least. So you really got to you really should keep him. That doesn't make sense to trade him, especially if
Yeah.
it's going to be one of those situations where it's a limited, no trade clause, and you don't know where you. It limits what we could get in return, like that, like the Panarin situation, because there was only so many places he was willing to go to, so that alone affected what we were going to get from him.
Yeah. And Trocheck has already said that he doesn't want to go to the East Coast. I'm sorry, to the West Coast. So you've pretty much just you cut your options in half now, and it looks like you can only trade him to someone in your own conference. So that means now you're going to trade him to someone that you're going to have to be fighting this guy for the next couple of years on, potentially one of your rival teams in the Eastern Conference. So it doesn't seem like a smart move if that's what they do. But, all I got to say is if they do trade him, you better be getting a lot back, and it better be a lot more than you got back for Artemi Panarin. That's my thoughts on it. And Dan, too, another guy I heard them talking about the Rangers were shopping that I just don't understand is Alexis Lafreniere. That's right. I heard the Rangers are shopping their former number one overall pick from the 2020 draft, Lafreniere. Now, let's be honest. Lafreniere had a great year and a great postseason run. The year the Rangers went to the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago and lost in Game 6 to the Panthers. However, he had a bad year last year after signing his extension last season, and he's had a bad year this year too. There's no running away from it. He's been a disappointment the last 2 years. However, he's still 24 years old. What I don't understand is if you trade this kid, you signed him already to an extension. So you have him under contract. You don't have to worry about losing this guy in free agency until he's almost 30 years old. I get if you think that his cap hit of whatever it is, 7 million, is just not worth what he is. Okay, that's an assessment that Drury's gonna have to make on his own. But my warning is, if you trade Alexis Lafreniere and he goes out to whatever other team you trade him to and turns into the player that we all know, Chris Drury is never going to hear the end of it. And it'll be if the Rangers trade him and Lafreniere turns into a star, that will be a Nolan Ryan for Jim Fergosi type awful move for the New York Rangers. If we're talking about the trade the Mets made back in the 70s with the Anaheim Angels, back then the Los Angeles Angels were California Angels. So, Dan, uh, I am not for. I know a lot of Ranger fans are sick of Lafreniere, and I understand their frustration with him. I am not one of the people that would trade Lafreniere. I think that would be a gigantic mistake. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it'd be a giant mistake, and I feel like you need to keep him. He could have. He looks like he's gonna have a bounce back year next year. I feel like there's just something in the air that's gonna have a bounce back year, and I feel like they just got to put him in the right spot with the right line, and he's gonna he they need he'll be fine.
Yeah, I
I feel like
agree.
th- I feel like this I feel like this is one that they can't trade.
What I think they finally, for the first time since they've had Lafreniere, there's no Kreider and there's no Panarin keeping him out of the top six on the left side. So what I want to see Sullivan and the Rangers do for the rest of this year and then starting in next year too is I want Lafreniere on the top line. I don't care who the center is. I don't care who the right wing is. Whatever way you want to mix and match it, have at it. Lafreniere has to be penciled in as that number one left wing playing 20 plus minutes a night. And I don't care what it is. That's the only way that you're going to make Lafreniere the player that you need him to be, or at least you're going to be able to see if he's even capable of being that. If you're trading Lafreniere when he's playing 15 or 16 minutes a night, you're not seeing all the guy has to offer. I understand he can be lazy at times. I understand that his defense can be lacking at times. But if Lafreniere can go out there, maybe by playing 20 minutes a night, maybe it ignites a fire under his ass. I don't know. I just think it'd be very, very stupid to trade a guy that you already locked up to a long-term deal, that has already showed that potential. We all remember how good Lafreniere looked in the playoffs 2 years ago. So I don't want to sit here and give that guy up for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. I just feel like he finally needs to get that playing time that he's been lacking in getting, and it could pay dividends now that there's an opening there for him to get that chance.
Yeah, that's right, man. So, we'll have to see. We'll see exactly what happens with that. But it's all going to go down tomorrow, the NHL trade deadline. I forget what time it is. It might be 4:00 tomorrow afternoon. But either way, tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be going down. We'll be keeping an eye on it, no doubt about it. Dan, I think that's just about going to do it for us today on the show. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us in the chat. I want to thank Cardiff for hanging out in the chat before we even started. And Dan, anything you'd like to plug before we get out of here?
Sure, I got to plug my X account, Bobo103NYC, Instagram, Bobo718DK, and of course, same username on Threads, YouTube, one word, Daniel Curl. Remember, subscribe to our Patreon, only $5 a month. Get access to stuff like Trackside Minute, our Patreon exclusive show every Sunday, and you get 8 days early access whenever I upload stuff on YouTube and Trackside Minute. So you got a lot of good stuff there, all less than the cost to load money onto this. Less than the cost to load money onto this. This for a round trip, $6. We charge $1 less on our Patreon than to load this for a round trip on the subway.
That's right. So make sure you check it out. Patreon.com/Best Seat in the House podcast. We really appreciate everybody that goes over there. We'll be back with you on Patreon on Sunday for a normal show like always. We always do a Sunday Patreon show during the NFL season. It becomes a Jets-Giants post-game show. We'll do a combined show if they play at the same time, or we'll do separate post-game shows for each one. But during the off-season, it just becomes a traditional Sunday show. So we'll be back with you on Sunday on that show. Don't forget, the USA is opening up tomorrow night in the WBC against Brazil at 8 p.m. So we'll be checking that out too. And that's going to do it for the show tonight, everybody. So thank you so much for hanging out with us. For my co-host, the great Daniel Bobo Curlin, I'm Rob Kramer. This is the Best Seat in the House podcast, everybody, and we will see you next week. Have a great weekend, and USA!
USA! USA!